Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a peculiar corner of history where a simple fruit, yes, a fruit scent, shivers down Victorian spines. Picture yourself in a bustling London market, 1830s, where the air hums with hawkers' shouts and the clatter of horse hooves. Stalls overflow with potatoes, cabbages, and glistening fish. But there's one oddity tucked away. A crate of bright red tomatoes, eyed with suspicion, like they're plotting your demise. The crowd parts around them, whispering of poison and death. You'd think these were forbidden apples from some grim fairy tale, not a future pizza staple. Honestly, you'd probably faint at the sight of a salad back then. No Wi-Fi and killer tomatoes. You wouldn't survive a week. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and time zone. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in that market. The cobblestones slick under your boots, and the scent of fresh bread mixes with something sharp of fear maybe. The tomatoes gleam under a weak sun, their skins taut and vibrant. But to the Victorians around you, they're practically glowing with malice. A woman in a bonnet clutches her basket, muttering about the devil's fruit. You catch her eye, and she hurries off, as if you're tainted by proximity. It's absurd, isn't it? Like if we all swore avocados were cursed because they bruised to Italy. But this fear wasn't just a quirky fad, it gripped entire cities. The tomato, now your ketchup's best friend, was once a culinary pariah, blamed for everything from fever to sudden death. Historians still debate how this panic took root, but most point to a mix of bad science and old-world superstition. Let's rewind a bit. The tomato wasn't always a villain. It came from the Americas, where indigenous peoples had been eating it for centuries. No drama involved. You can almost taste it juicy, slightly tart, maybe tossed in a clay bowl with maize. But when it sailed to Europe in the 1500s, things got messy. Botanists, scratching their quills, noticed its resemblance to deadly nightshade, a plant that could stop your heart. They weren't wrong to be cautious. Nightshade's no joke. But instead of testing, they slapped a warning label on tomatoes and called it a day. By the time you're in this market, that caution has morphed into full-blown hysteria. A man brushes past you, his coat reeking of pipe smoke, and mutters about a lord who died after eating those red demons. You want to laugh death by tomato sounds like a bad TikTok trend. Yet, there's a stranger truth here, one you won't find in most history books. Some Victorians didn't just fear tomatoes, they thought they could curse you. Not like, eat one and you're doomed, but a weirder belief, that touching a tomato under a full moon could invite bad luck, like breaking a mirror or spilling salt. You overhear a vendor joking about it, his voice low, as if the tomatoes might hear. Plant 'em at night, he says, and your crops'll wither. It's the kind of tale you'd roll your eyes at, but in 1830, it's gospel to some. You glance at the crate again, and okay, maybe they do look a little sinister, winking in the light. Would you take a bite? Be honest. The market's noise swells, and you notice something else. Not everyone's scared. A girl, maybe 16, lingers near the tomatoes, her fingers brushing one. She's an outsider. You can tell her shawl's too colorful, her accent faint but foreign. She doesn't buy, just smiles and moves on. You wonder if she knows something the others don't. Maybe a recipe from a far-off place where tomatoes aren't the enemy. It's a flicker of hope in this sea of dread, like spotting a single rational tweet in a doomscroll. But for now, the fear holds strong. You step away from the stall, the crowd's murmurs fading, and head toward a narrower street where the gossip grows louder, and the tomato's dark legend takes on new life. Section 2. You're weaving through a cramped London alley now, the market's clamor fading behind you. The air's thick with coal smoke and the faint temps of overripe fruit, and your boots catch on uneven stones. Around you, voices hum with gossip, like a podcast you didn't subscribe to but can't mute. The topic: tomatoes, of course, those red menaces from the market. You overhear a baker, flour dusting his apron, warning a customer that one bite'll turn your blood to ash. It's wild how fast this fear spreads, like a viral post claiming 5G causes hiccups. The Victorians are eating it up, no pun intended, and you're caught in the middle, half amused, half unnerved by their conviction. The big event fueling this chatter is a recent scandal. A local apothecary, known for his tonics, supposedly dropped dead after brewing a tomato-laced remedy. You hear it from a woman leaning out her window, her voice sharp as she recounts how he clutched his throat and fell, red as the fruit itself. The story is probably exaggerated. Victorian tabloids loved a good scare, but it's got everyone on edge. You pass a newsboy hawking papers, shouting about the tomato curse for a penny. It's like they're auditioning for a horror flick, and tomatoes are the slasher villain. Historians still argue over whether the apothecary's death was real or just a convenient spark for panic, but it cemented the tomato's bad rap. Here's the odd bit though, something you won't read in most dusty tomes. Some folks believe tomatoes weren't just poisonous but could steal your breath if left in your kitchen overnight. You catch a snippet of this from their hands read from Lie, whispering about a neighbor who woke gasping after storing tomatoes under her sink. It's not science. It's pure superstition, like thinking your phone's listening to your dreams. But in 1830, it's as real as gravity. You can't help but smirk. Imagine tossing out your salsa because it might haunt you. Would you check under your bed for rogue cherry tomatoes? Don't lie. The fear's not random though. It's tangled in shaky science from the time. You pause by a bookshop, its window crammed with tomes on botany and medicine. Inside, scholars and stiff collars debate, their voices muffled but intense. It's still hung up on the tomato's nightshade connection, convinced its leaves and stems toxic. The fruit's a death trap too. They're not idiots. They're just working with microscopes that belong in a museum, and theories that sound like horoscopes. One scholar, you overhear, claims tomatoes inflame the humors, whatever that means. It's like they're diagnosing a fruit with bad vibes. You want to barge in and hand them a BLT, but good luck convincing this crowd yet. Not everyone's buying the panic. You spot that girl from the market again, the one with the colorful shawl. She's bartering for herbs, unfazed by the tomato talk swirling around her. You catch her eye, and she winks like she's in on a secret. Maybe she's from a place where tomatoes are just food, not folklore. It's a tiny rebellion, like streaming a band song in a censored country. You follow the alley's curve, the gossip growing louder, and you can't shake the feeling that this tomato hysteria is about to get weirder, like aristocratic dinner party weird. For now, you keep walking, the city's pulse pulling you deeper into its paranoid heart. You're swept from the alley's grime into a glowing Mayfair mansion, the kind where chandeliers drip crystal and every surface screams wealth. It's 1835. And you're at a high society dinner, the air heavy with roast pheasant and claret, the table's a battlefield of silverware, and you're squeezed between a viscount with a mustache like a broom and a lady, fanning herself like she's auditioning for a Jane Austen novel. The main event, a dish of tomatoes sliced glistening and served with a side of pure dread. The room hushes as the platter lands, like someone just dropped a cursed artifact. You'd think it was radioactive, not a salad. Honestly, if Instagram existed, this moment would be captioned #Victorian problems. The big historical moment. Here is the tomato's rare appearance at an aristocratic table, a bold move by the host, Lord something or other, who's clearly flexing his progressive streak. The guests are split, half stare at the tomatoes like they're ticking bombs, while the others poke them cautiously, as if they might bite back. You catch the viscount muttering about foreign poison, his voice low but dripping with disdain. This isn't just about food, it's class warfare. Tomatoes tied to exotic lands and lower-class immigrants are beneath the elite's usual fare of boiled mutton and puddings. Historians still debate whether this dinner was a genuine attempt to normalize tomatoes or just a stunt to shock the ton, but it's a turning point either way. Here's the weird gem you won't find in textbooks. Some guests believe tomatoes could taint their silverware, turning forks into conduits for bad luck. You overhear the lady beside you whisper that her cousin's spoon dulled after touching a tomato, as if it's cursed metal now. It's peak Victorian nonsense, like thinking your AirPods could hex you. You stifle a laugh. Imagine polishing your cutlery to ward off tomato ghosts. Would you swap your fork just to be safe? Come on, admit it, the tension's thick, and it's not just about taste. Tomatoes challenge the rigid social order. You notice the servants, moving like shadows, exchanging glances when the tomato dish passes. One, a young man with a scar on his cheek, smirks as he refills your glass. You'd bet he's eaten tomatoes in some back alley stew. No fuss. The upper crust, though, they're performing outrage, clutching pearls over a fruit most of their cooks probably sneak into soups. It's like watching influencers fake shock over a new TikTok trend. Pure theater. You lean closer to the table, the candlelight flickering, and catch a whiff of the tomatoes, sharp, earthy, almost defiant. Then, the mood shifts. A young heiress, all curls and confidence, takes a bold bite. The room gasps, forks clatter, and you swear the viscount's mustache twitches like it's alive. She chews slowly, smirking, and declares it divine. It's a mic drop moment, like someone live streaming a taboo snack. You want to cheer, but the lady next to you grips her fan tighter, muttering about reckless youth. The divide is clear. Old money clings to fear, while the new guard flirts with rebellion. You glance at the servant again, and he's still smirking, like he knew this was coming. The night's far from over, and as you leave the dining room, the buzz of scandal follows you, pulling you toward darker corners, where the tomato's reputation takes a sinister turn. You're slipping out of the glittering mansion now, the dinner's drama fading as you step into a fog-choked street. The city feels alive, gaslights hissing like they're whispering secrets. You're headed to a dim lecture hall, where the air smells of ink and old books, and a crowd of men in frock coats huddles around a botanist's podium. The topic tonight: plants, specifically the tomato, and why it's apparently out to get you. The lecturer, all whiskers and wild gestures, points to a sketch of a tomato plant, its leaves curling like claws. You settle into a creaky chair, half expecting a PowerPoint slide labeled Tomatoes, Public Enemy Number 1. It's 1836, and science is stumbling through the dark, making this fruit a villain. The big historical moment here is the scientific misclassification that fueled the tomato panic. Botanists, armed with shaky theories, lumped tomatoes with deadly nightshade, convincing everyone the fruit was a poison pill. The lecturer drones about solanaceous toxins, his chalk snapping as he jabs the board. You catch murmurs from the crowd. Some nod sagely, others look ready to burn every tomato patch. It's like watching a Reddit thread spiral into chaos over a misread study. Historians still debate how much of this was bad faith versus honest error, but the damage was done. Tomatoes stayed on the naughty list. Here's the strange tidbit you won't find in most records. Some botanists thought tomatoes could corrupt the soil they grew in, making nearby crops toxic to you. Overhear a student whispered this to his friend, claiming his uncle's carrots turned bitter after sharing a field with tomatoes. It's pure hogwash, like blaming your Wi-Fi lag on your neighbor's router. You bite your lip to keep from snickering. Imagine digging up your garden to save your potatoes from tomato cooties. Would you double-check your backyard? Be real. The lecture hall's stuffy, and you shift in your seat, catching the lecturer's latest claim. Tomatoes, he says, disrupt the body's vital energies. It's the kind of vague nonsense that passes for science here, like a wellness influencer hawking crystal vibes. But these men eat it up, scribbling notes as if it's gospel. You notice a younger scholar in the back, his brow furrowed, flipping through a book that looks suspiciously modern. Maybe he's questioning the hype. It's a glimmer of doubt in a room full of certainty, like spotting a fact check in a comment section. You lean closer, trying to catch his muttered words, but the lecturer's voice drowns him out, railing about foreign plants and moral decay. That's the real undercurrent here, fear of the unknown. Tomatoes, tied to the Americas and savage lands, feel like an invasion to these buttoned-up Brits. You glance at the crowd, their faces tight with worry, and it hits you. This isn't just about poison, it's about control. A tomato's not just a fruit, it's a threat to their tidy world. You slip out as the lecture ends, the fog thicker now, and you're drawn toward a church spire looming in the distance. The tomato story is about to get holier than thou, and you can already hear the sermons ringing out, painting those red fruits as the devil's own. You're gliding through the fog now, the lecture hall's stuffy debates behind you, and your steps echo on slick cobblestones as you approach a looming church. Its spire pierces the mist like a needle, and the air carries the faint scent of candle wax and damp stone. Inside, it's 1837, and you slip into a pew, the wood groaning under you. The congregation's hushed, faces lit by flickering tapers, as a preacher in a black cassock thunders from the pulpit. His topic, the tomato, branded not just poison but a sin, a scarlet temptation straight from Eden's darker corners. You half expect him to call it Satan's snack pack. It's absurd, like a TikTok preacher demonizing matcha lattes, but the crowd's eating it up, their eyes wide with holy dread. The historical pivot here is the church's role in amplifying tomato fears, weaving them into moral panic. Sermons like this one, common in the 1830s, linked tomatoes to lust and rebellion, claiming they stir unholy appetites. The preacher's voice booms, quoting vague scriptures about fruits of the wicked, and you notice women clutching their hymnals tighter, as if tomatoes might slink through the stained glass windows. It's peak Victorian repression food as a gateway to damnation. Historians still argue over how much the church genuinely believed this versus using it to control wayward flocks, but the effect was real. Tomatoes became spiritual outcasts. Here's the oddity you won't find in most chronicles. Some parishes claimed tomatoes grown in unblessed soil could curse entire villages. You catch a whisper from an old man beside you, his breath sour, saying his cousin's hamlet lost 3 cows after a tomato patch sprouted nearby. It's wild, like blaming your bad day on a Mercury retrograde tweet. You stifle a chuckle. Imagine exercising your veggie garden. Would you sprinkle holy water on your planters, just in case? The sermon's relentless, and you shift on the hard pew, the air thick with incense and fear. The preacher paints tomatoes as tools of foreign devils, tying them to heathen lands across the sea. It's not just theology, it's xenophobia, dressed in robes, like a politician scapegoating avocado toast for economic woes. You spot a young woman in the back, her bonnet slightly askew, rolling her eyes just enough to notice. She's probably heard this before and isn't buying it, like you skipping past an ad for miracle weight loss tea. Her quiet defiance reminds you of that market girl with the colorful shawl, small sparks in a world of gloom. But the fear's grip is tight. You watch a mother shush her fidgeting son, warning him to steer clear of red fruits or face divine wrath. It's chilling, the way superstition seeps into daily life, like a bad app update you can't uninstall. As the sermon winds down, the congregation murmurs prayers, and you slip out, the church's heavy doors creaking shut. The fog's thicker now, curling around you like a living thing, and you're drawn toward a muddy lane where a lone farmer's about to defy this holy. It's hysteria with a secret crop of his own. You're trudging down a muddy lane now, the church's fire and brimstone fading into the damp night. The fog's parted, revealing a patchwork of fields under a sliver of moon, and the air smells of wet earth and something sweeter, ripe tomatoes, hidden somewhere close. You're outside London, 1838, and you've stumbled onto a small farm, its cottage glowing faintly with lamplight. A man, weathered as the oak fence he leans against, tends a secret patch of tomato plants, their red fruits, peeking through leaves like forbidden jewels. He's a rebel in flannel, defying the preachers and botanists with every quiet harvest. You crouch behind a hedge, watching, half expecting a pitchfork chase. It's like catching someone streaming pirated movies in a world without Netflix. The historical anchor here is the quiet resistance of rural farmers who kept growing tomatoes despite the panic. This man, call him John, is part of a scattered few who never bought the poison hype, likely because they'd eaten tomatoes for years with no grim reaper knocking. You see him pluck a fruit, inspect it under the moonlight, and take a slow bite, juice dribbling down his chin. It's a middle finger to the city's hysteria, a small but real defiance. Historians still debate how many farmers like him kept the tomato alive during its darkest days, but they were the unsung heroes of your future marinara sauce. Here's the quirky truth you won't dig up in most archives. Some farmers swore tomatoes could ward off pests if planted in a circle around other crops. You overhear John muttering to his dog, a scruffy mutt sniffing the plants, about how his cabbages thrived since he ringed them with reds. It's pure folklore, like thinking garlic repels vampires or bad Tinder dates. You smirk, imagine sketching a tomato pentagram to save your kale. Would you try it for your herb garden? Don't dodge the question. John's not careless though. You notice him glance over his shoulder, wary of nosy neighbors or a stray vicar sniffing out sin. He's breaking no laws, but in a world where tomatoes are the devil's candy, he's playing with fire. The plants are tucked behind taller crop scorn, maybe hidden like a speakeasy in Prohibition. It's clever, like password protecting your weirdest playlist. You creep closer, the mud sucking at your boots, and catch the tomato's sharp, green scent. It's strange to think this quiet act, this one man and his forbidden fruit, is a thread in the tapestry that'll one day make pizza a global king. But the night's not all calm. You hear a rustle, footsteps, maybe a fox or worse, a busybody. From the village, John freezes his hand on a tomato, and you hold your breath, the tension thick as the mud underfoot. He relaxes when it's just his dog, but you feel the weight of his secret. This isn't just about crops, it's about standing against a tide of fear, like posting a hot take in a toxic thread. You back away, leaving John to his quiet rebellion, and head toward a new whisper of the tomato's tale, one tied to ancient myths and a fruit that's starting to feel like a legend. You're back in London now, the farmer's moonlit field a memory as you weave through a bustling street, 1839. The air is sharp with coal dust and the Thames of spilled ale, and you duck into a cramped tavern where lamplight dances on stained walls. The crowd's a mix of dockworkers and clerks, their voices loud with ale-fueled tales. You slide onto a bench, the wood sticky under your palms, and catch a story that makes your ears perk. The tomato, they say, is no mere poison, it's the poison apple of old myths, reborn to haunt the modern age. You almost snort into your imaginary pint. It's like hearing someone swear their vape is cursed by ancient druids. The historical thread here is the blending of folklore with tomato fears, as old tales of deadly fruits got tangled with this new world import. The tavern's storyteller, a wiry man with a scar across his brow, spins a yarn about a medieval apple that killed with one bite, now disguised as the tomato. His audience leans in, some nodding, others chuckling but half believing. It's a classic case of old superstitions latching onto new fears, like how we'd blame a glitchy app on gremlins. Historians still debate how much these myths shaped public panic, but they gave tomatoes a gothic edge, turning them into storybook villains. Here's the peculiar bit you won't find in dusty records. Some believe tomatoes could bewitch you if eaten raw, making you reckless or lovesick. You overhear a barmaid whisper this to a giggling friend, claiming a cousin ate a tomato and ran off with a sailor. It's pure tavern gossip, like a 19th century urban legend about haunted AirPods. You bite back a laugh, imagine blaming your bad Tinder date on a rogue caprese salad. Would you double-check your groceries for enchanted produce? Come on, fess up. The tavern's warm, the fire crackling, and you lean closer to the storyteller, his voice low and theatrical. He's milking the myth, describing tomatoes as red as a witch's heart, grown in cursed soil across the sea. It's not just fear, it's a performance, like a viral thread spinning conspiracy theories for clout. You notice a young man at the bar, his coat patched but clean, scribbling notes. A writer maybe, collecting tales for a penny dreadful. He's the odd one out, skeptical but curious, like you scrolling through wild Reddit posts for fun. His presence hints at a shift tomatoes as entertainment, not just terror, but the fear is still alive. A dock worker slams his mug down, swearing he'd rather eat coal than those devil's berries. The crowd laughs, but you see unease in their eyes, like they're half convinced the tomatoes are listening. It's a strange mix of jest and dread, like joking about a horror movie while checking your locks. You slip out as the tale ends, the tavern's heat fading into the chilly street. The tomatoes myth is growing wilder, but you're being pulled. toward a new scene, one where a brave soul's about to take a public stand, and the tomato's about to face its day in court. You're swept from the tavern's smoky haze into a sunlit town square, 1840, where a crowd buzzes like a hive. The air's crisp, laced with the scent of fresh bread and horse dung, and you're pressed shoulder to shoulder with shopkeepers, maids, and gawking kids. At the center, on a makeshift platform, stands a Dr. Lanky, spectacles glinting, holding a tomato like it's a holy relic. He's about to eat it, publicly, to prove it's no poison. The crowd's half thrilled, half horrified, like they're watching a YouTuber chug a mystery smoothie for views. You lean against a lamppost, the iron cool under your palm, and brace for the spectacle. Spoiler, no one's calling an ambulance, but it's still wild. The historical anchor here is the bold public demonstrations by physicians to debunk tomato myths. With figures like this doctor risking their reps to shift opinion, he's no fool. He's studied the science, shoddy as it is, and knows tomatoes won't kill him. He raises the fruit, voice steady, and declares it nature's gift. The crowd gasps as he bites, juice dripping onto his cravat. Some cheer, others clutch their hats like he's signed a death warrant. It's a turning point, like a viral post cutting through misinformation. Historians still debate how many minds these stunts changed, but they cracked the fear's foundation. Here's the weird nugget you won't find in most books. Some onlookers thought the doctor's survival was due to a charmed stomach, blessed by obscure rituals. You overhear a fishmonger mutter this, claiming the doctor drank a moonlit tonic beforehand. It's bonkers. Like thinking your fitness influencer pal is immune to junk food because of yoga. You stifle a grin, chugging a smoothie to tomato-proof your gut. Would you try a sketchy potion for science? Don't duck the question. The doctor's not done. He offers slices to the crowd, and you watch a brave baker's apprentice take one, chewing with exaggerated bravado. The tension's thick, like waiting for a plot twist in a lie. A woman in a shawl, remember that colorful one from the market, steps up to, eating calmly, like she's been at it for years. Her quiet confidence is a vibe, like someone unfazed by a Twitter storm. But not everyone's swayed. A man in a top hat storms off, muttering about reckless quacks, his cane stabbing the ground. It's clear the tomato's still a villain to some, like a meme that won't die. You shift your weight, the cobblestone's hard underfoot, and notice a scribbling journalist capturing every detail. He's probably spinning this into tomorrow's headline, Doctor Defies Death. It's a step toward reason, but the crowd's buzz tells you fear lingers, like static after a storm. You slip away as the doctor starts a lecture, his voice fading, and head toward quieter streets where the tomato story simmers in hidden kitchens, ready to spark a new kind of rebellion. You're slipping away from the square's clamor now. The doctor's tomato stunt still buzzing in your ears as you wander into a narrow street, 1841. The air's heavy with coal, smoke, and the faint sizzle of cooking, and you follow a warm, spicy scent to a cramped tenement. Inside a dimly lit kitchen, a family of immigrants, Italian, maybe huddles around a scarred table, stirring a pot of bubbling tomato sauce. The room's alive with garlic and herbs, a stark contrast to the city's tomatophobia. You linger. In the doorway, the floorboards creaking under you, feeling like you've stumbled onto a secret food vlog. This is where the tomato thrives, hidden from the preachers and professors. The historical core here is the role of immigrant communities in preserving tomato traditions, quietly defying the mainstream panic. These families, far from their homeland, cook with tomatoes like it's no big deal, passing down recipes that predate the Victorian fearfest. You watch a woman, her hands dusted with flour, knead dough while her husband ladles sauce, their chatter soft but lively. It's a slice of resistance, like streaming your favorite band song in a censored app. Historians still debate how much these private kitchens influenced broader acceptance, but they kept the tomato's heart beating. Here's the strange tidbit you won't find in most records. Some immigrants believed tomatoes could strengthen the spirit if eaten during family meals. You catch the woman whisper this to her daughter, saying it binds us to home. It's less science, more soul, like thinking your grandma's cookies fix a bad day. You smile, imagine crediting your pasta for your inner peace. Would you sneak a tomato for good vibes? Spill it. The kitchen's warm, the pot's steam curling like a cozy fog, and you notice details, a rosary on the wall, a chipped clay bowl, the kids sneaking sauce with bread. It's a world apart from the mansion. Dinners and church rants, grounded in love and memory, but it's not all safe. You hear a sharp knock, maybe a nosy landlord or a suspicious neighbor. The family freezes, the man lowering the flame, like they're hiding a speakeasy. Tomatoes here aren't just food, they're a risk, like posting a controversial take in a small town's group chat. You hold your breath, but the knock fades, false alarm. Outside, the street's quiet, but you sense the tension. These families are outliers. Their recipes are quiet rebellion against a city that scorns their food. You step back into the night, the sauce's aroma lingering, and feel the tomato story shifting. It's not just about fear anymore. It's about roots and resilience, like a viral recipe spreading despite the haters. You're drawn toward a new thread now, one where the tomato's about to sneak onto the page, bold as ever. We're drifting from the tenement's warm kitchen now, the scent of tomato sauce fading as you step into a dimly lit bookshop. 1842. The air's thick with dust and leather, shelves groaning under the weight of tomes. You're brushing past stacks of yellowed pages when you spot it. A slim, unassuming cookbook, its cover worn but bold with the title Modern Receipts for the Curious Palate. Tucked inside, a chapter on tomatoes, recipes for stews, sauces, even a daring salad. You flip a page, the paper crisp under your fingers, and feel like you've unearthed a band manifesto. This is rebellion in print, like a viral recipe thread sneaking past the algorithm's censors. The historical pivot here is the emergence of cookbooks that dared to feature tomatoes, signaling a shift in culinary tides. This book, likely penned by a rogue cook or a forward-thinking lady of means, is a quiet middle finger to the poison myths. You skim a recipe for tomato conserve, its tone cheerful, as if daring readers to try it. These books were rare, often shared in secret among adventurous cooks, like DMs swapping contraband. Historians still debate how widely they circulated, but they nudged tomatoes toward respectability, one kitchen at a time. Here's the odd gem you won't find in most archives. Some believe tomatoes in recipes needed a counter-charm ingredient like basil or salt to neutralize their curse. You overhear a shop clerk whisper this to a customer, claiming her aunt's sauce only worked with a pinch of blessed herbs. It's pure Victorian whimsy, like thinking your smoothie needs sage to avoid bad juju. You smirk, imagine sprinkling magic salt on your pizza. Would you toss in a lucky herb, just in case? The shop's quiet, save for the rustle of pages and a cat slinking past your boots. You notice a woman in a plain bonnet, her eyes scanning the cookbook with a mix of caution and hunger. She's no aristocrat, maybe a governess or a merchant's wife, but she's curious, like someone scrolling a sketchy recipe site for fun. She tucks the book under her arm, glancing around like she's smuggling contraband. It's a small act, but it matters, like retweeting a bold take in a sea of haters. You want to cheer her on, but the shopkeeper's watching, his brow furrowed. Outside, the street hums with evening chatter, and you catch a whiff of something familiar, maybe from a nearby stall. The cookbook's a spark, but the fear's still out there, clinging like damp fog. You slip away, the book's weight lingering in your mind, and feel the tomato's story growing bolder. It's not just a fruit anymore, it's a symbol of change, ready to burst into the open at a festival that's about to flip the script. You're swept from the bookshop's dusty hush into a vibrant country fair. 1843, where the air buzzes with laughter and the scent of fried dough. It's a warm September day, and you're in a small town outside London, surrounded by colorful tents and fiddlers sawing lively tunes. The crowd's a mix of farmers, townsfolk, and curious city visitors, their faces lit with sun and cider. At the heart of it all, a bold banner flaps in the breeze: Tomato Festival. Yes, you heard that. Rita Whole event celebrating the fruit everyone's been dodging like a cursed chain letter. You weave through the throng, your boots kicking up dust, and feel like you've stumbled into a viral food fest, complete with tomato-themed merch. It's wild, like a TikTok trend gone rogue. The historical anchor here is the rise of public tomato festivals, small but gutsy events that challenge the poison myth head. This fair, one of the first of its kind, is a gamble by local growers and a few enlightened merchants who've tasted the future, and it's red and juicy. You spot tables piled with tomatoes, raw, roasted, even baked into pies. A farmer offers you a slice, his grin daring you to try. You take a bite, the juice sharp and sweet, and the crowd cheers like you've slain a dragon. It's a turning point, like a hashtag flipping a narrative. Historians still debate how much these festivals swayed public opinion, but they made tomatoes a spectacle, not a sin. Here's the quirky truth you won't find in most records. Some festival goers believed eating a tomato at noon, under an open sky, could cleanse bad luck from the past year. You overhear a woman in a straw hat share this with her friend, claiming it resets your fate. It's pure countryside magic, like thinking a juice cleanse fixes your bad decisions. You chuckle, imagine munching a tomato to erase your awkward texts. Would you nibble one for a cosmic doorbell? Don't dodge me. The festival's alive, with kids tossing tomatoes in games and cooks ladling steaming sauce over bread. You spot that woman from the bookshop, her bonnet swapped for a scarf, sampling a tomato tart with a cautious smile. She's not alone. There's the colorful showgirl from way back, now selling tomato preserves. Her stall swarmed. It's like a reunion of the tomato resistance, a Reddit thread come to life. But not everyone's on board. A door vicar lingers at the edge, his scowl sharper than a sermon, muttering about heathen displays. He's the odd one out, like a troll in a wholesome comment section, but his presence reminds you the old fears haven't vanished. You pause by a juggler tossing tomatoes, the crowd clapping as he catches one in his mouth. The energy's infectious, like a live stream hitting peak views. You feel the shift. Tomatoes aren't just food here, they're a statement, a middle finger to decades of dread. As the sun dips, painting the sky red like a giant tomato, you slip away, the fair's joy lingering. The next stop's a lab where a chemist's about to drop some truth bombs, and the tomato story is about to get a whole lot clearer. you're leaving the festival's lively hum behind. The taste of tomatoes still sharp on your tongue as you step into a cluttered laboratory in London. 1844. The air's thick with the tang of chemicals and singed herbs, and shelves brim with vials and dusty journals. A chemist, wiry and ink-stained, hunches over a workbench peering at a tomato through a clunky microscope. His apron splattered like a bad abstract painting, and he mutters to himself, scribbling notes. You lean against a creaky table, the wood warm from a nearby burner, and feel like you've walked into a steampunk Mythbusters episode. This is where the tomato's villain arc gets a reality check. The historical cornerstone here is the breakthrough that began dismantling the tomato's toxic reputation. Chemists like this one, armed with better tools and a touch of skepticism, tested tomatoes and found no deadly poisons, just water, sugar, and a bit of acid. You watch him slice a tomato, its juice pooling on a dish, and test it with drops from a pipette. His face lights up as the results align with his hunch. It's harmless. This work, shared in journals and lecture halls, starts chipping away at the fear, like a fact-check tweet going viral. Historians still debate how quickly these findings spread, but they gave tomatoes a fighting chance. Here's the strange nugget you won't find in most records. Some chemists thought tomatoes could balance the body's ethers, a vague nod to health benefits. You overhear the chemist's assistant, a young man with a lopsided grin, whisper this to a colleague, claiming it calms the nerves. It's half science, half hope, like thinking kombucha fixes your soul. You smirk, pitching tomatoes as the OG wellness trend. Would you swap your green juice for a tomato shot? Be honest. The lab's a mess. Glassware clinking as the chemist paces, his voice rising with excitement. He's not just proving a point. He's challenging a whole system: botanists, preachers, even lords who'd rather dine on fear than facts. You notice a letter on the desk, addressed to a medical society, detailing his findings. It's bold, like posting a hot take in a skeptics forum, and you can tell he knows the backlash is coming. High society's still clutching their pearls, wary of anything that smells of change. You spot a familiar face through the window, that festival woman with the scarf, now delivering a crate of tomatoes to the lab. It's like the tomato resistance is assembling, one quiet ally at a time. But doubt lingers. You hear a passerby outside, his voice sharp, scoffing at mad scientists who'd feed us poison for sport. It's a reminder that old fears are stubborn, like a glitchy app that won't update. The chemist doesn't flinch though. He's already on to his next test, muttering about ignorance as the true toxin. You slip out, the lab's chemical haze fading, and step into a city where the tomato's truth is spreading. Ready to crash a fancy party and rewrite the menu. You're gliding from the lab's chemical temps into the opulent glow of a Mayfair ballroom. 1845, where chandeliers sparkle like frozen fireworks. The air is rich with perfume and roast lamb, and you're weaving through a sea of silk gowns and starched collars. It's a grand ball, the kind where whispers carry more weight than gold. And you're here for a shock. Tomatoes are on the menu. Not hidden in a sauce, but proudly displayed, sliced, drizzled with oil, and served like they belong. You pause, by a banquet table, the linen crisp under your fingertips, and feel like you've crashed a gala where kale's the new caviar. The tomato has gone high society. And it's strutting. The historical pivot here is the aristocracy's reluctant embrace of tomatoes, a sign the tide's turning. Once scorned as peasant food or worse, tomatoes are now a chic novelty. Thanks to chemists' findings and those bold festival vibes, you watch a duchess, her fan fluttering, take a cautious bite, her nod sparking murmurs of approval. It's a far cry from that panicked dinner years ago. Remember the Viscount's mustache meltdown? Now, even he's nibbling, though he looks like he's swallowing pride with it. This shift's huge, like a trending hashtag flipping from flop to fire. Historians still debate how fast the elite warmed to tomatoes, but their menus changed the game. Here's the odd bit you won't find in most chronicles. Some aristocrats thought tomatoes eaten at midnight could sharpen the wit for debates. You overhear a lordling, his cravat askew, whisper this to his dance partner, claiming it's better than coffee. It's peak Victorian quirk, like thinking matcha boosts your IQ. You stifle a laugh. Imagine sneaking a tomato to a Zoom call. Would you try it for a brain boost? Spill it. The ballroom's a swirl of waltzes and clinking glasses, and you catch the scent of tomatoes mingling with rosemary and wine. It's surreal, seeing the fruit that once sparked gasps now gracing silver platters. You spot a familiar face, that scarf-wearing festival woman, now a caterer's assistant, arranging tomato dishes with a knowing smile. She's like a quiet hero in this saga, linking the market, the fair, and now this gilded hall. But not everyone's sold. A dowager, in pearls, sniffs, muttering about vulgar trends, her voice sharp as her corset. She's the last holdout, like a commenter clinging to an outdated meme. You sway to the music, the violins soft as a lullaby, and notice a young earl sketching a tomato on his napkin, half joking, half curious. It's a sign the fear's fading, replaced by fascination, like a debunked conspiracy losing steam. You slip toward the balcony, the night air cool, and feel the tomato's journey nearing its peak. The world's opening up, and you're headed to a global stage where the tomato's about to conquer new lands, leaving old fears in the dust. You're slipping away from the ballroom's golden haze, the clink of crystal fading as you find yourself on a bustling dock, 1846, where the air's salty and sharp with tar. Ships creak against their moorings, sails snapping in the wind, and crates of tomatoes bright defiant are loaded for distant shores. You're at London's port, surrounded by sailors shouting and merchants haggling, the world's pulse beating loud. These tomatoes aren't just cargo, they're ambassadors, carrying their new respectability to Europe, America, even India. You lean against a weathered post, the wood rough under your palms, and feel like you're watching a global food trend launch. Like quinoa before it was cool, the historical core here is the tomato's global spread fueled by trade and changing tastes. With the poison myth crumbling thanks to chemists, festivals, and fancy dinners, tomatoes are now a hot commodity. You watch a merchant, his ledger smudged, barter for a crate bound for New York, bragging about the fruit that beat death. It's a far cry from the market stalls you first saw, where tomatoes were cursed. This boom reshapes diets worldwide, like a viral recipe remaking menus. Historians still debate how fast tomatoes conquered global plates, but their journey's undeniable, seeding everything from ketchup to curry. Here's the weird truth you won't find in most logs. Some sailors believe tomatoes, carried on voyages, could calm stormy seas if offered to the waves. You overhear a grizzled deckhand mutter this, claiming he tossed one overboard and dodged a squall. It's pure maritime myth, like thinking your Spotify playlist sways the weather. You grin and imagine chucking a tomato to chill a hurricane. Would you try it on a rough ferry ride? Don't play coy, the dock's alive, crates thumping onto ships as gulls scream overhead. You spot a familiar figure, that colorful shore girl, now a trader's aide, checking tomato crates with a practiced eye. She's everywhere, isn't she? A quiet force, like a retweet amplifying a cause. But old fears linger in pockets. A passing cleric, his robes flapping, scowls at the crates, muttering about heathen fruits corrupting colonies. He's a fading echo, like a troll in a dead thread. But his words remind you not every corner of the world's ready for the tomato takeover. You step closer to the water, the tide lapping at the pier, and catch the tomato's earthy scent, mingling with brine. It's a moment of triumph, each crate a victory over decades of dread. You imagine them landing in distant markets, sparking new dishes, new fights, new loves. The world's bigger now, and the tomatoes along for the ride, like a meme gone global. As you turn from the docks, the horizon glowing, you're pulled toward a final reflection where the tomato's long road comes into soft, sleepy focus. You're drifting from the dock's salty bustle now, the creak of ships fading as you find yourself in a quiet garden, 1847, bathed in the soft glow of dawn. The air's cool, laced with dew and the faint sweetness of ripening tomatoes, their vines curling around wooden stakes. You're somewhere rural, maybe a village green, where the world feels still, like a paused video before the day wakes. You sink onto a mossy bench, the stone chilly under you, and watch the first light kiss the tomatoes, their red skins gleaming like tiny suns. This is the end of the journey, a moment to breathe, to trace the tomato's wild path from fear to feast. The historical heart here is the tomato's full acceptance as a staple. No longer a villain, but a quiet hero of kitchens everywhere, from markets to mansions, festivals to far-off ports. It's woven into daily life, a fruit that outran superstition and science's stumbles. You imagine families slicing tomatoes for breakfast, farmers planting without fear, cooks scribbling new recipes. It's a triumph of resilience, like a once-hated song topping the charts. Historians still debate what finally tipped the scales, science, trade, or sheer stubbornness, but the tomato's victory is clear. A lesson in how we outgrow our ghosts. Here's the final oddity you won't find in most tales. Some villagers believe tomatoes, left on a windowsill, could whisper good fortune to a home. You notice an old woman nearby, her shawl frayed, setting a tomato by her cottage window, her smile soft. It's less magic, more hope, like keeping a lucky charm in your pocket. You smile, imagine a tomato as your good luck charm. Would you perch one on your desk for vibes? Admit it, you're tempted. The garden's serene, bees humming as they dance between flowers, and you feel the tomato story settling around you, warm as a blanket. You think back, remember the market's panic, the preacher's rants, the farmer's secret crop. Each step led here, to this quiet dawn where fear's just a memory. You spot a familiar face, that colorful shore girl. Now older, tending the vines with steady hands. She's the thread through it all, a reminder that change comes from small, brave acts. Like a single light sparking a movement. As the sun climbs, the light softens, blurring the garden's edges. Your eyelids grow heavy, the bench cradling you like a friend. The tomato's tale is done, a story of human quirks and courage, of letting go of shadows. Let the vines fade, the red fruits dissolve into mist. You're safe here, wrapped in the morning's hush, no fears to chase you. Close your eyes, let the world slip away, and drift into the gentle dark, where history hums like a lullaby. Sleep now, deeply, carried by the quiet triumph of a fruit that dared to be loved.